You're listening to Sox in the Basement, a production of the Broadcast Basement Limited, where every show is 30 minutes of good and comes from a basement bar on the south side of Chicago. Pull up a stool, pour a cold one, and join us right now for Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at soxinthebasement.com. So a lesson was retaught to me between the last episode of Sox in the Basement and this current one, Ed. A lesson that is taught to me, I believe, each and every season for the White Sox. And that lesson is, don't get too high, don't get too low, don't react to what's happening on any given day. Look at the big picture for this team. Because I love that starting staff. I was super excited. Not so good right now, right? I mean, like, you'll see somebody do something really well, you'll see a little bit of a trend, you'll start talking about the trend, and then everything changes right after you put out your episode, and you gotta wait 3 more days till your next podcast comes out. And this team is so unpredictable, they're like the weather in Chicago in March and April. That's just what they are. I mean, the starting staff, incredible the first time through. And then Sean Burke, not so good. You know, the whip is still down overall over 2 games. There are some positives. He just kind of had some bad luck, I would say, a little bit in that second start. But Jonathan Cannon, tightrope walking in his first start, doesn't even make it 4 innings in his second start. As we sit here and record while the Sox-Tigers game is going on, and it's 5-1 currently. And I would imagine by the time you listen to the show, the White Sox will have dropped to 2-5, and still could somehow be in first place in the Central, because 2 and 4 had him in a 5-way tie, which is amazing to me.
It's insane that the division is all starting off bad, but yeah, I mean, you can't get hung up game to game on this, and Sean Burke was bound to have starts like this, and also the bullpen has been bad. I mean, there's some trends that you can look at and sit there and go, nobody in the bullpen's really exciting me. I mean, Mike Vassell has had a good 4 innings. Fraser Ellard has had a good couple of outings, but the game you referenced, Jonathan Cannon, he gets to 88 pitches in the 4th inning, and Will Venable pulls him because he wants a lefty to face Kerry Carpenter, who, by the way, can't hit lefties, and then Brandon Eisert comes in and promptly serves up the first home run that this guy's hit off of a lefty in probably 100 games. And it's just, you can't have too much concern over whether or not that's going to be a problem all year, because what you're really looking for is there anything good I can take away? Like you said, Sean Burke's whip. His ERA is going to suffer because he's got a lousy team behind him. But is Sean Burke's whip pretty good? Is he getting his strikeouts, which I know is a cause for concern for some people?
Well, he's keeping guys off.
A lot of guys out.
He's keeping guys off base. Like, here's the thing. He's given up 10 hits over 10 1/3 innings. He has walked nobody. So he gives up no free passes. So in that regard, over 10 innings, he's averaging just under 1 guy getting on base per inning. So that's a good thing. Now, 2 of those hits were bombs, and he's got 6 earned runs, and I don't think he gave up an earned run the first time that he was out. So he had a bad second start.
Yeah, it was just a bad start.
But he's also young. This is a young rookie that you have made the ace of your staff based off of a relief appearance and 3 starts at the end of last year, in which he was really solid, and he did keep guys off base. He was about 1 guy per inning is what he was putting on base. That's excellent for a starter, and then he had a great first start. So you're going to see ups and downs with him. Like, here's my take on Sean Burke. I picked him up on my fantasy baseball team. I guarantee you right now there are plenty of guys that wish they would have grabbed him up. He's going to be a viable player for me because he's going to have some really good starts, but I'm not going to use him unless he's like a 2-star pitcher in a week in fantasy, because he's going to be inconsistent. Like me using him as a fantasy baseball player, he is a viable starter that when he has 2 starts in a week, and if you've ever played fantasy baseball, that happens sometimes, you start 5 pitchers. Most of them are only starting 1 time that week. You get a guy who starts twice, you have a chance at double points. It could be the advantage in your game. I would roll the dice with Sean Burke if he has 2 starts in a week, but right now I wouldn't trust him to be one of my best 5 starters on my fantasy baseball team. He's just not at that level yet. But at his age, and knowing that I get to keep these guys every year because I'm in a dynasty league, I'm happy he's one of my 40 dynasty baseball players in my league, because I think that he's going to be good one day. So my personal take on him, from somebody who has something invested in something else and has to look at all Major League Baseball pitchers, I think that the White Sox have a really nice pitcher here that is going to be part of the rotation for many years to come and is going to be very good. I'm not sure about that with Jonathan Cannon. Jonathan Cannon sometimes uses way too many pitches. He was a tightrope act in the last game, in the first game of the year that he was out there, and then the bad start here in game 2. And I look at his body of work last year, he's a highly inconsistent pitcher. And I want to say that I kept saying last year that at best, Jonathan Cannon is probably a 5th starter on a good team. If he develops, and right now he isn't even good enough to be a 5th starter on a good team. The White Sox having him as their number 2 out of the gate was surprising to me. They see something I don't see, Ed.
Well, and you watch him and you can see the pitches have a lot of movement. He looks like he's got really great stuff. He just has absolutely no idea what to do with it or where it's going. And that's why he's got, again, 90 pitches in less than 4 innings in today, his most recent start here. And that kind of a thing is something that you saw Dylan Cease, for example, eventually overcame that to a certain degree. And you've seen other pitchers be able to operate like that. What that means is that Jonathan Cannon probably is on a good team, a 4th or 5th starter, because he's not going to go deep into games. He's not going to be overly efficient. He is going to tax your bullpen. You got to figure out in advance how you're going to play the pen, because you know it's coming in early and you know that you're going to need an inning or two from somebody.
And that's an opinion you and I have that I think a lot of people don't have. A lot of people call us way too old school for the idea that we think our pitchers should be able to pitch deeper in the games and not have that many pitches through 3 or 4 innings. You know, when that young kid that we got in the Rule 5 draft, what is his name? Shane Smith.
Shane Smith
as his first start. And it was really sweet to see his parents there. There's some video that the Sox put out, and he freezes the batter for his second strikeout of the inning, I think in the first inning of his first start. And, his mom believes immediately that it's a strike, which, from where she's sitting, from what I could tell, that's just a mom, loving her son. The dad waits until he sees the umpire ring him up. And then he's like, oh, yeah, ring him up on that one. I'll take that one. Like two totally different things. But I appreciate that as a parent myself. And, it's touching. And he had a really nice start for a Rule 5 rookie pitcher to come out. And in his first game, 5 2/3, 2 hits, 2 earned runs. He walks 4 and strikes out 3. That's a nice start. It's a good, solid start. But I was put off, and I know that this is dangerous to say something bad about Steve Stone, but I was put off by when he was asked in the broadcast what kind of start this was. And I don't know if he said magnificent or brilliant, but the platitudes were over the top. You would have thought he had just gone 8 scoreless. He didn't even get through 6. In my mind, and I think the mind of a lot of baseball fans, I know not everybody sees it this way. Maybe it's a generational thing. If you can't complete 6 as a starter, I don't know if it was a brilliant or magnificent or awesome or spectacular start. I don't know. Now, first start as a rookie, give him some applause coming off, 5 2/3. And that's a lot better than most guys are going to do when they get their shot in the show. That's awesome. I'm not trying to downplay it. But on the other hand, there's this mentality that going 5 and throwing 100 pitches and giving up 2 runs is a spectacular start. And it's not. You're not even at quality start status. And I've said this so many times, I'm going to keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. Until you've gone 6 complete and given up 3 or less earned runs. And there used to be a time that getting a quality start was so easy, it was a dumb stat. It was like, well, why is that even exciting? Why is giving up an inning why is giving up a run every other inning and only making it 6 a quality start? Like that, when I was younger, that wasn't even a good game. Think about that. Think about the ERA of the pitcher if he does that. What is he, a 4.50 if he does that?
Right, yeah, he's a 4.5.
He's a 4.50 earned run average if he goes 6 every game and gives up 3 runs, even though they would all be quality starts. So this idea that if you go 4 1/3, 4 2/3, 5 innings, 5 1/3, and you throw 100 some pitches and you give up a couple of runs, that is just this thing that we should all be excited about. It's not. It's not, because the best teams with the really good pitchers get a lot better out of them than that. A lot better. Dylan Cease upped his value when he started pitching a little bit more to contact and going deeper into games. He became a far more valuable pitcher than when he was just trying to, spend all of his energy. And it didn't matter if he was walking off the mound at 5 1/3 and he'd only given up 1 run and they're giving him thunderous applause and Benetti's in there going, what an amazing start. I've never felt that to be an amazing start. Maybe I'm just an old curmudgeon, but I've never found that to be an incredible start. What happened in the first round of these starters, their first time through the rotation, where we had a couple of quality starts, what I loved about those was that several of them were 6 innings and they weren't giving up any runs. Those were spectacular starts. You need to build on that. You need to get to a point where the guy's going 7. Like, why are we getting so excited about mediocrity? And please, again, don't think I'm picking on Shane Smith. Like, I actually think that's a pretty good start for his first time out. But
I will say, Shane Smith did not go 100 pitches. He only went 73. So now I'm wondering if Will Venable pulled the hook on him a little too early.
Maybe he does,
because he got himself into trouble.
Maybe that's what he does. Maybe he pulls him a little bit early. But and the thing is, I have no problem with any of that. I don't have no problem with Venable pulling him early. I don't have a problem with if he only does that much in his first start. All of it's great. The only thing that kind of rang hollow to me was the platitudes. They felt over the top. Because I remember Wilson Alvarez, his first start in the major leagues, didn't he go 9? Didn't he have a no-hitter?
Or like, that was his no-hitter against the Orioles.
No-hitter? Yeah. Like, that's when you explode. That's when you sit there and go, this is the greatest start. Like, that's when you get excited, right?
That's an amazing major league debut
if you're already way up here above your head in your platitudes for that, what are you going to do when a guy does something similar or close to what Wilson Alvarez did in his first start? Sox in the Basement listeners and viewers on YouTube, for exterior windows, doors, patio doors, and storm doors, look no further than Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. No high-pressure sales, not in your kitchen. You're in their showroom. The reason for that is, and I used to sell windows for about 6 months. I wasn't supposed to sell windows at the window store, but the economy was bad and the guy who was running it was a bad businessman. So, and they didn't last very long, that window store. But I would show up in people's places and walk in with these things that were like falling apart that were example windows. And it was so embarrassing to have to sit there and try to tell somebody, imagine this, but bigger and all over your house. Now give me a big check. That's not how you should buy windows. You should go in, there's an owner in the showroom, there's one on site. Every example is there. You're going to get a much better idea of what's going to happen. You're going to get a much better deal, and you're going to be happy with your choices. Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest has been doing it this way for 40 years in Oak Forest since 1985 with all major brands custom made, no stock items for a perfect fit. They are a half block east of 159th and Ridgeland at 6280 159th Street. See more at windowdooroakforest.com. But again,
you really used to sell windows?
I did.
I always kind of wanted to sell mirrors. I mean, it was just something I could see myself doing.
Oh, wow. That is a terrible joke. That's terrible. Again,
I know.
Shane Smith, not a bad start. Pretty solid for getting out there. Rule 5 guy, makes a team, comes in as the 5th starter. He pitched well. I'm not putting him down. It's a nice performance. I just think that we should have higher standards. I think all of us as White Sox fans have lowered our standards so much over the years because of the crap that we watch. And now we get excited about stuff we really shouldn't get excited about. Okay? Like we need to hold the team to a higher standard. If we held the team to a higher standard, Andrew Vaughn wouldn't even be on the team, let alone batting 4th.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the case. I mean,
let's hold ourselves to higher standards, right? Why can't we say we deserve better than this? You should do that in all aspects of life. I deserve better than this. I'm not going to stay in this rut, in this bad job, in this bad relationship, whatever it is. I deserve better than this. Andrew Vaughn, terrible spring, hitting 136 out the gate with a 454 OPS. And then we have other names that looked hot in spring, come out of the gate and fall flat on their face. Lenin Sosa, 211 right now, at least as I sit here on Friday afternoon putting this show together. Miguel Vargas, 208, 588 OPS. And what is the deal with him, Ed? I get Venable trying to get something going. But is he the leadoff hitter or is he not? Because I would just put him someplace because he needs to work on a lot of things, and I think consistency would help that guy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was leading off again on Friday, but then you see Nick Maton leading off a couple of games. I don't know if it's Will Venable trying to find something that works, or if it's Will Venable just, tinkering this early because nothing is working. Like you said, I mean, there's very little that's going right. I mean, you have basically two guys on the team that are doing anything offensively. Andrew Benintendi,
and Brooks Baldwin,
333 average with a 968. I was just about to mention Brooks Baldwin, 375 with a 978 ERA. And again, Brooks Baldwin, at least on Friday, as you and I are recording, is the lone offense for the White Sox.
Yeah.
As he kind of got lucky with the RBI because Matt Thies was thrown out by 90 feet, but somehow the catcher couldn't find the ball and dribbled it like he was playing basketball.
But look at these guys. Look at these guys that were hot in spring doing nothing. Corey Lee was red hot. He's hitting 143 out the gate. Luis Robert Jr. is hitting 167 out of the gate. Like, what is going on here? Like, again, this is why you don't get excited in spring. This is why when somebody says they're in the best shape of their life, just be like, yeah, whatever, buddy. I don't care. Because they get in there and they start playing. And it's not like they're playing like really good teams. They're not. The Angels are terrible. They're just a bad organization. They're just about as bad as the White Sox are. The Twins are in complete disarray. The Tigers are nothing to get excited about. Okay? They're playing subpar teams at this point, and they're getting these kind of results. If it's going to be like this, it's going to be a really long season. And I'm concerned immediately about the fact that you can't get any offense together. I don't expect them to be good. I've said this before on the show. The real story is the pitching. I'm more upset when the pitching is bad, and I'm more excited when the pitching is good because I need that to be real. And there's more of a realistic chance that you could actually build a nice little staff and find a couple of long-term pieces for your team that are going to make up the starting 9 and the starting rotation and the 26-man roster for years to come. And I don't have a lot of high expectations for the hitters. But man, find me at least one guy out of Sosa, Vargas, Lee that is going to be consistently good at hitting the baseball, please. Figure out whether or not Andrew Vaughn is a part of the team or not, because I don't want to watch this all year long with him. I already watched him be a replacement level to below replacement level player last year. I don't need to see this all year long again. And Luis Robert Jr., could you just have a couple of hot months so they can move you? Because you're wildly inconsistent for your entire career.
Yeah, again, like you said, you look at what can you build around. That's a good way to put it, because that's what this team needs is what pieces, what are guys that you can build around at this point. And I'm not talking that they have to be superstars that you build around the way Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams always constantly harped that we're going to build around Luis Robert Jr., we're going to build around Yoan Moncada, we're going to build around Andrew Vaughn, all these guys that have not really panned out to the superstar level that they were hyped to be. But if you, for example, on the pitching staff, we talked about Shane Smith's first start. Let's say that Shane Smith continues to do what he's doing and does get better and does go 6-7 innings and and Sean Burke is the same way. And they have their rough patches, they have their bad starts. I mean, every starting pitcher has a clunker here and there. But if those two guys in particular are guys, and I would throw Davis Martin in there as well, he's still fairly young. If those guys are guys that become foundational pieces, even if they end up being your 3, 4, and 5 starter, okay, when the team ends up being good, even if they're not frontline pitchers, even if nobody's voting for them for the Cy Young, that's still something to build around. That's still something you sit there and go, okay, I got 3/5 of my starting rotation. Feels like it's in pretty decent hands. So what I'm looking at is, Lenyn Sosa has cooled off. If Lenyn Sosa can get his ship righted, is he a guy that because he's shown that he can do it, even in small sample sizes, if this is really his time, okay, early on, small sample, I'm willing to go with the ups and downs, but at some point he's going to have to start turning it on and keeping it on. Miguel Vargas the same way. He's had plenty of opportunity. You've talked about this a lot following his career when he was with the Dodgers. He's had plenty of opportunity. If he doesn't do it now, he's not going to do it later.
Everyday player for 81 games.
Yeah. Everyday player for 81 games and
did nothing.
Not good enough for the Dodgers to keep him.
Regulated to being a platoon guy and then eventually shipped off to the White Sox where he did nothing last year. And this team keeps trying to tell you that he's going to be something. And he had 2 weeks at the back end of spring training that he showed something. And again, when he was playing well, I was excited about it because I want these guys to play well. It's not like I want Miguel Vargas to suck. My fear, though, is that he does. right? Like it's not like I want these things to fail. My fear is, though, that they are going to fail because of how bad things are. And here, perfect example of the difference between spring along with AAA, because a lot of AAA players are sitting there in spring, and the major leagues. There are 7 guys right now on the Charlotte Knights. One of them is not Oscar Colas because they hate him. They sent him to Birmingham this week. That guy will never see him again. Poor Oscar Colas. And we never saw Oscar Colas again.
He might want to change his name.
Right.
I mean, just to fool them into thinking he's somebody else.
He got demoted from AAA to AA this week. But there are 7 guys right now down in Charlotte that have, in a small sample size, we're anywhere between 2 to 6 games, anywhere between 7 to 23 at bats, have a 900 OPS or better, that are hitting well enough down there that somebody could be like, bring that guy up because we can't get a hit. Let's see if you can guess them. You don't have it in front of you, do you? Tell me.
I do not.
Okay.
No,
let's see
I
if you
don't
can
have
guess
it in front of me.
Guess down in AAA in a small sample size. Give me any of the names that you think are in those top 7 that have a 900 OPS or better. Because I'm curious. What you think?
Well, Kyle Teal's got to be one of them.
Kyle Teal is right now with a 1037 OPS. He's hitting 304. On base percentage of 385, 652 slugging percentage. He's throwing guys out at second base every time they try to run on him. He's 7 for 23. He's got 9 RBI. He should be up here right now. And I think that if he's not up here by May, if he keeps doing that, it's a travesty. White Sox fans need him. The White Sox need him. And I thought that he should have had a chance to make the team out of the gate. I know why they didn't do it. I know they have these young pitchers. I know that they're trying to see whether or not there's something with Corey Lee. But if he keeps hitting in the 100s, it's time to see some Kyle Teal. Anybody else you want to throw out there before I give you the whole list?
Edgar Carroll.
Edgar Carroll's on there as well. That's a good thing. 333 with a 945 OPS. He is 5 for 15. Also down there, another catching possibility, although I believe that they're moving him around a little bit and playing in different positions. And he's hitting really well. Here are the rest of them. Neither one of those guys could make the White Sox, by the way. They didn't bring them with.
Yeah. For some reason, they were not good enough. Although to be fair, again, in spring, Corey Lee, like you said, on fire.
Right.
So
Andre Lipschitz, who did not make the team, is hitting 286 over 7 at bats. Corey Jokes is 6 for 13, 462 average, 1148 OPS, and we know he's not good enough at the major league level. See, so this is the difference between AAA and spring training and then the actual major leagues. Tim Elko's down there right now. 4 for 13. That's a 308 average, 976 OPS. He's hit the ball out of the ballpark at least once down there. He's on that list. Chase Mydroth, who couldn't buy a hit in spring training, is a 931 OPS, mainly because he's getting on base at over a 400 clip. He's only hitting 238, but he gets on base. And then Zach DeLoach, another guy who was taken off the 40-man roster, wasn't good enough to make the team. His OPS is 906 right now in a small sample size. But all those names are either guys that had no chance because they couldn't perform in spring but are doing it down at the AAA level, or performing right now and we've seen them at the majors and we know they can't do it. And then a couple of prospects in Caro and Teal and maybe even Mydroth that they want to get here, but they don't feel like they're ready yet. And on top of all of that, just something to kind of throw out there, there's a name that's not on that list. Did you notice Colson Montgomery not on the list?
Yep, that's a conspicuous absence, and Colson Montgomery is having a terrible season.
The guy they kept trying to tell me, look at his last couple of weeks of spring and forget everything, or look at his last couple of weeks of last year's season. Don't look at the whole body of work, just the last couple of weeks and his Arizona Fall League stuff. And, if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, this was their plan to be your shortstop to start the year in Chicago. 1 for 20 to start the season with 15 strikeouts. 1 for 20 with 15 strikeouts. I don't even know what to say anymore. Like I'm going on a trip here later on in April, and it's going to be kind of fun because James Fox of Future Sox is going to come in and fill in with me. So you have somebody to talk to, Ed. So it's going to be you and James. And maybe over those couple episodes while I'm out of town, you guys can try to figure out who the heck I'm supposed to be rooting for to get to the major leagues. Like, what's the future of this team? Because Oscar Colas isn't even like in AAA anymore. A lot of the guys who are on the 40-man have been taken off the 40-man. Colson Montgomery, the great hope that he's supposed to be. The next Corey Seager, which now they won't even say out loud anymore. But remember they were saying that a year ago. 1 for 20 with 15 strikeouts. Like, I I'm going to sit on vacation and listen to you two guys talk about that because I want to know. I want to know what James has right now as a guy who observes the minor leagues. I'm looking forward to that in a couple of weeks when he comes in and guest hosts Sox in the Basement.
Yeah, and that's part of what we, I think, as a fandom need to look for this year too. And that's part of where, if there's going to be despair, it's going to be the idea that the cavalry is not coming from the minor leagues right now, because you have two catchers and one of them is going to have to learn a new position, and only one of them can DH. And you've got guys like Chase Mydroth who frankly just aren't ready. He will get on base if he comes to the majors, but the knock on him when he got sent down was he wasn't nearly aggressive enough in the zone to try and actually put himself on base. I mean, at the major league level, he's just not going to get lucky and get walked. What would you rather them do? Garbage pitching.
What would you rather them do? Take guys right now that are down there and just let them come up here and get it worked out at the majors, or leave them down there until it's impossible to keep them down? Like, with the team the way that it is, what would you rather them do?
I mean, honestly, it would almost, I think in some ways I would love to see Kyle Teal up here behind the plate. And if you believe in Corey Lee as somebody that you want to keep on the team, then either he goes down and gets his swing right, or you move him around. You move him to first base or something like that.
You'd swap him down. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to sending Lee down and bringing up Teal.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it. And, same thing with Edgar Caro. If you feel like there's something you could do, I mean, frankly, first base should be open because Andrew Vaughn is what Andrew Vaughn is at this point. The next step is not coming.
And reward good play. I don't care if it's only a couple of weeks. If Brooks Baldwin's one of the only guys getting a hit, he should be in the lineup all the time. Okay?
Every day.
Every day. Yeah, that should be something that happens. When Josh Rojas gets here, him and Brooks Baldwin should both be in the infield. I don't care if somebody else loses a job. I have no loyalty to any of these people. Like, you heard me talk about how much I wanted to see Lenny Sosa have a great year. If he doesn't perform well and they take him out of the lineup, fine. I don't care about any of these guys. I don't. I keep to the cutthroat thing. We've seen that already with some of these roster moves. Keep to the cutthroat thing when it comes to jobs in the major leagues. All right? Especially if you're somebody that had an opportunity last year in the middle of that debacle and you came back this year and you're still not putting it together. There's only so much leeway, only so much rope that I can give out with the White Sox. It's the only thing that's going to keep it interesting for me this year. The only way 2025 is interesting for me this year is if I'm constantly seeing roster moves, lineup changes, guys getting jettisoned and new guys coming in and trying to win a job. Okay? Two men enter, one man leaves. It's got to be Thunderdome out there at the rate. And with that music, the Sox nerd Dave Marin joins us. He puts all those tidbits and trivia nuggets up on the board at the rate. He joins us here on Sox in the Basement each and every week. Brought to you by the Village of Lamont. Want to experience a downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure? Visit the Village of Lamont. Shop, dine, drink, explore, and see everything they have going on this weekend and beyond at lamontdowntown.com. Nerd, what do you got for me?
Chris? Curious as to what the old nerd does during a 2-hour and 48-minute rain delay like the one we had on March 30th? Well, with Andrew Benintendi sitting on 99 homers, I used the time to find all the players who hit their 100th big league bomb with the Sox. Benny joined the list the next day with his first blast of the season on March 31st. Benintendi became the 42nd player to reach the century mark in homers with the Sox, and the first since Elvis Andrus went deep off Colorado's Peter Lambert, Jimmy's brother, on August 18, 2023. A lot of the players who reached 100 with the Sox are obvious. Thomas, Kittle, Baines, but some are not. Did you know Kenny Lofton, Giovanni Soto, and John Kruk hit their 100th with the Sox? Well, now you do. Here are a few more gems I've unearthed so far this season. Nick Maton hit a game-starting homer as a DH on March 30th. The Eastern Illinois product joined Tim Raines, who did it on June 17, 1995, also against the Angels, as the only Sox players to do this. Maton has hit 2 homers as a leadoff DH. Maton, Ralph Garr, Pat Kelly, Raines, and Bob Molinaro are the only players with more than 1 homer in this role. Maton has made 1 start leading off as a first baseman. That is a White Sox rarity. Only 28 players have done this for the Sox, with Maitan, Delmonico, Lillibridge, Swisher, and Erstad being the most recent. And one more. Smith is the most common last name in the United States. However, April 1st marked the first time in 78 years a Smith started on the mound for the White Sox. Shane Smith's Major League debut that day was the first start by a Sox pitcher named Smith since July 10th, 1947, when Eddie Smith took the loss in Washington. Before I get to my zinger, I remind you that gems like these and long-form pieces are on my blog, which you can link to at soxinthebasement.com. My zinger? In honor of the 20th anniversary of the World Champions, I'm going to zing frequently about that team, throwing out some gems you may not know about the 2005 Sox. There was only one college which produced more than one member of the 2005 White Sox, and that was Stanford, which sent Joe Borchard and Brandon McCarthy to the South Side. That's it, Chris. More than you probably wanted to know about 100 homers, Nick Maitan, Sox Smiths, and that ACC powerhouse Stanford.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.